Not every case interview at any firm is the same. While Bain and BCG mostly give cases in candidate-led formats, McKinsey is known to extensively use the interviewer-led cases. Even though both formats share a few similar consulting principles, the strategies and techniques for each are very different. In this video, let's deep dive into interviewer-led cases. Hi, my name is Kim Tran, a former McKinsey consultant and the founder of the platform Management Consulting Prep. It's important to watch the Case Interview 101 video before this, then everything I talk about here will make much more sense as you also get the big picture. Each case interview lies somewhere on a spectrum with two extremes, one being 100% candidate-led and the other being 100% interviewer-led. For case interview prep, it's important to understand each extreme in great depth. I've already covered the candidate-led side in a previous video, so this one is going to be about the interviewer-led side. Now, how does the case flow in each format? Here's an example. How to stop the riot at the White House. If this was a candidate-led case, the interviewer would just say that and stop. You're in the driver's seat now. If you don't push for progress, the case stalls. If that was an interviewer-led case, however, the interviewer would go on to ask you a series of mini-case questions, one by one. For example, question 1, what are some possible causes of the riot? You answer that. Then the interviewer continues, question 2, estimate for me the damage to the country in both tangible and intangible senses. You answer that. And so on. At first glance, interviewer-led cases seem easier. You don't have to worry as much about case structure, drawing frameworks, being messy, running out of things to talk about, or getting stuck. Indeed, it is easier in that sense. I myself often give interviewer-led cases to new trainees. They're less overwhelming, and the trainees can focus on some small, specific aspects. However, the better you get, the more you realize mastering interviewer-led cases is extremely difficult. Yes, you don't have to worry about driving, but the importance of nailing each question is a lot higher. And to nail these questions, you need a good deal of business knowledge and a mastery of the tips and techniques to tackle each case interview question type. The first half takes quite a long time to train, but the latter can be mastered quickly with some intensive and methodical training, so it will be covered in the second half of this video. Keep watching. What are some of the most popular questions in interviewer-led cases? Ironically, candidates around the world seem to overrate catchy question types like market sizing or brain teaser, even though they're not the most popular. So here's a list of question types ranked by their appearance rate in actual McKinsey cases, and this is how you should distribute your effort. CEO pitch or elevator pitch questions, framework, issue tree, case structure questions, math, word problems, guesstimation questions, hypothesis, explanation questions, solution finding questions, chart insights questions, information questions, value proposition questions, and brain teasers. When you look closely, you may realize that these question types roughly follow a typical problem-solving and candidate-led flow. After the case definition and clarification, the first step of any problem-solving is to draw an issue tree, using templates from frameworks to hopefully break down the problem and isolate the root cause. Framework or issue tree questions in interviewer-led cases test exactly this. These questions can be asked in a few forms, such as, how would you structure this riot problem in the White House? What factors would you consider regarding the riot in the White House? What would the issue tree look like? Now, the business of testing each branch is all about working with data. Sometimes we are first provided with a fact, and then we're asked to come up with some explanations for that. Or in other words, the interviewer is asking for hypotheses to explain what's going on. These questions are called hypothesis explanation questions. Some common wording of these are, what are some possible reasons explaining why the majority of protesters are white citizens? The majority of protesters are white. The president wants to understand some possible causes. Do you have any hypotheses? Sometimes working with the fact itself can be challenging. Two question types focus on this. When the interviewer throws you a bunch of numbers and asks for some calculations, we have math or word problems. When you are specifically asked to draw insights or takeaways from those data, you are doing chart insights questions. Occasionally, when the data is not available, a typical consultant would estimate it. Guesstimation questions are all about that. When the estimation is about market size, it's called a market sizing question, and when it's about the value of a firm, it's a valuation question. The former variant uses essentially the same techniques, but the latter is a bit different, touching on basic finance. You can see the guides on the Case Interview Questions article on Consulting Prep's website for details. See the link in the description. Sometimes the data is enough to make a conclusion, and sometimes it's not. Information questions ask you what data or information you need to make such a conclusion, along with what is already available on the case. Notice that logic arrows don't always go both ways. A causes B does not mean that we conclude A from B. We need additional information or data points to reverse the arrows. The information question tests just that. An example of this would be, a hypothesis explaining the white demographic of protesters is that most of them are Trump supporters. What information do we need to make that conclusion? Sometimes the information questions can go one step further, asking you about the data sources. No matter how great a piece of information is, if we can't get it, nothing happens. These questions most of the time are worded plainly. How do you get that data? The killer tip for this question type is to know the actual data sources that McKinsey consultants use every day and what kind of information each source provides. Having this on the subconscious level of your head, you'll never lead yourself to a dead end in every step of the case interview. This awesome weapon is available for free on the starter pack on mconsultingprep.com. You can type in Google mconsulting prep data sources. It'll pop up. Download it as soon as possible. My product manager keeps complaining to me that it should be exclusive on the end-to-end program. Analysis after analysis, the root cause is revealed. Time to come up with solutions. We have solution-finding questions. When all is done, the interviewer often asks you one final question to give an elevator pitch for the client's leadership. You have something like 30 to 60 seconds to tell the executive everything he or she needs to hear. This is the elevator pitch question. In some special cases, the interviewer may also throw in a value proposition question in the middle of the case if the flow works. These questions sound like this. What factors would a voter consider when choosing a president? Or what factors would a customer consider when buying a laptop for the first time? And in some rare situations, the interviewer may be in such a special mood that he or she may throw in some brain teasers as well. Now that you have an overview of interviewer-led cases, we know that there is 1, less of a natural flow, and 2, more emphasis on insights. How do you adapt to these challenges? It's time to discuss our game plan for interviewer-led cases. Number 1, take the wheel, even if you know the interviewer will take it back. We must always assume the case is conducted in the candidate-led format, meaning you're in the driver's seat. Play back the case, ask clarification questions, and propose an overall approach. Do everything I showed you in the candidate-led video. If the interviewer wants to do it that way, great. If he or she wants you to do the case interviewer-led style, no problem. You can elegantly move to the passenger seat and still score some leadership points. Besides, you'll also exert a little influence on the case flow and drive it towards your preferred direction. If you're lucky, you may even gain some important data points. More on this later in the video. Number 2, always deliver answers in one mega pitch, covering everything you need to say. In candidate-led cases, the flow is much more interactive. You can get away with providing pieces here and there. But in the interviewer-led format, the first response pitch is the answer, and you'll be graded based on that. So you want to make that a cohesive, structured, insightful, and compelling pitch. Each big response like this can take 1 to 2 minutes or even longer. Don't worry about being too long. Just make sure all the insights are there. We'll talk about how to structure a typical response later in this video. Keep watching. Number 3, you want to structure with 2 layers in your response. What do I mean by that? Let's look at an example. Let's say you've got a value proposition question. What are some factors that an American voter considers when choosing the next president? Most people would just use layer 1, something like, here are the 4 factors. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. It's a decent way to answer, but a much better method is to add insights, specifically deep in the response. You'll sound just as structured, but much more insightful. Here's how I would do it. While there are some universal factors, to deeply understand the situation and extract the most insightful information, I would like to break down the voter pool in different demographic groups in the most distinctive way and analyze the factors for each. So, by income level, I divide American voters into 3 groups. High-income voters, those with annual income from $100,000 and up, middle-income voters, and low-income voters, those with annual income less than $50,000. For the first group, some important factors are number 1, number 2, and number 3. For the middle-income group, here are the factors, number 1, 2, 3, and so on. You may ask, why 2 layers? Why not 3? Well, 2 layers is a perfect balance. 1 is too lacking in depth, but 3 is a little bit of overkill. Number 3, always apply the insights and data that are already stated in the case in the next response. Even though each question in the interviewer-led case is independent, it's only that way to a certain extent. Yes, each question is a standalone challenge, and you can somewhat start over after a bad one, but the context, or I should say the case universe, just expands after each question. I consider this as great news, a chance to stand out, and a resource to come up with even better insights during McKinsey interviewer-led cases. Being insightful itself is hard. We need to take advantage of everything we've got. A helpful trick is to have all the data in just one sheet or of a note. With messy notes and a stressful environment, you can surprisingly forget things. Watch this video on how to organize notes during a case interview. Number 4, trigger more and more data from the interviewer. Like I just mentioned, data and information are gold in case interviews. We need to extract from the interviewer as much as possible. We can be much more insightful, and our insights can steer the case in the right direction way better when we do. How do you do that? 4.1. Sneak some open-ended qualitative questions into the clarification phase. Everybody is allowed to ask as many clarification questions as he or she needs, and during this phase, the case or the question, aka the mini case, is technically not started yet. So this is a free ticket to buy some background insights. For example, in the case of how to stop the riot at the White House, some true clarification questions are, to what extent a protest became a riot? What's the definition of a riot? The objective of the case is to stop the current one, or is it also about preventing future ones, etc.? Then, depending on the answer of the above, sneak in some cool open-ended clarification questions with data purposes like, what's the current status of the riot? How long has it been going? How many people are involved? Is it trending toward more violent or more peaceful, etc.? 4.2. Outside of the clarification phase, when you need to ask for data in open field combat, always have an excuse. Or you will likely face a counterstrike from the interviewer. Why do you need that data? Try to link the data into the case. Tell the interviewer why you need it, and how that data would help move the case forward. Some plausible excuses are, clarify some details like we just did in 4.1, prove or disprove a hypothesis, or provide background context to propose an issue tree. For example, in the value proposition question above, what are some factors that an American voter considers when choosing the next president? If we want 2 layers, we really need data on demographics specifically. What kind of breakdown is best? Is it by gender, by race, by income, or something else? A great way to state this excuse is to have a granular response. I would like to break down the whole voter pool into different groups. I'm positive that they will yield many distinctive insights that could be overlooked if we just look at broad data. So what are some demographic data of previous elections that they track? Seal the deal by requesting the data source. This is like answering the data source question even before you get asked. So pretend the interviewer is asking, how do you get that data? We should have the upper hand by stopping the mock and score great impressions. To continue with the script above, I would add, this is typically available in various public reports. If this is a real project, I would do a round of press search and see what I can come up with. If that's too time-consuming, I'm sure the research and intelligence team can easily give me what I need. When you say that to a McKinsey interviewer, in his or her mind, you are already past to the next round. It shows a strong sense of proactiveness and a deep understanding of the McKinsey workflow. So equipping yourselves with common data sources consultants use is really beneficial. Open a new browser tab now and Google mConsulting Prep Data Sources to get it. Moving on to tip number 5. Always have a takeaway at the end of each question response. This is such a strong plus point. You show yourself as a candidate always with a big picture and a strong next step mentality, all the good traits of McKinsey consultants. So at the end of each response, just spend 10 to 20 seconds linking the response to the overall case. What are some implications on the big key objective? For example, continue with the above question. At the end of the response, after detailing all factors that voters of various groups would choose, link it to the overall case of how to stop the riot, like this. We can see that different demographic groups value different things, so there will always be some degree of dissatisfaction after every election. With this knowledge, we can map out the group that has a higher tendency to protest or, in the worst case, cause violence. This is the first important step to predict and prevent future riots. I am excited to explore more through your next question. As a McKinsey consultant, it's very satisfying to hear pitches like this one. Number 6, the overall components of a perfect question response. So all in all, a perfect response should thoroughly follow this formula. Receive the question. If possible, don't do a timeout at this point, but go straight to clarification. Include in this real clarifying intent questions as well as data gathering ones. Ask for a timeout. This is the time to think through everything about the case. Present the nuts and bolts of your answer. Remember, use 2 layers. Introduce all the branches of the first layer before going deeper into each. Without stopping, end your pitch with the implications and next steps. With different question types, the specific components need some customization, but the overall formula is just like that. Number 7, final tip, develop your own personal script and practice it over and over. Like in candidate-led cases, the idea behind this is to save valuable brain power in really stressful situations. There's some degree of repetition throughout all interviewer-led cases, so we can prepare beforehand the perfect script for those frequently used response pieces. Here's the list of all of them to assist with your preparation. Interview greeting, what you say the moment you meet the interviewer. Case intro, thank the interviewer for the case, play back the case, ask clarifying questions, and propose the overall approach. Question clarification, play back the question and clarify for the questions. Ask for a timeout, ask for data, introduce the structure, first layer. Introduce the structure, second layer. Implications, what do the insights in each question mean for the overall case context? Each of the question types would have its own script too. At the very least, you should prepare for the most popular ones, solutions and CEO pitch. I strongly advise you to develop your own scripts using your own wording, those that you're most comfortable with. You can see mine in the End-to-End Secrets program. If you're serious about getting into McKinsey, prove it to me. Comment your versions below and I will give feedback on each one of them, even if you're not on the end-to-end program. In the limited scope of this video, I don't have the time to go deep into each question type. Refer to designated videos talking about each of them. If you don't see them on the suggested videos on the right-hand side, indeed, YouTube algorithms need some help. Visit my channel and you will easily see them on the playlist Case Interview Questions. To keep making these free videos, your modest support of any kind is greatly appreciated. A click on the subscribe button and the notification bell would do it. Stay tuned for future videos. If you don't see me here, I am probably writing some awesome articles on mconsultingprep.com. At Management Consulting Prep, we believe everybody can make it to consulting. Are you a believer?